Welcome to Credit Careercast, brought to you by Hayaku, the best place to advance yourself. In this episode, we bring on Bob Shultz and Dave Schmidt to discuss what makes us our best, training. Thank you for joining us. Let's get started. Hello, Bob, Dave. So, Dave is joining us. He is an editor for Credit Today, and Bob is an instructor and trainer for Hayaku. And both have about 40 years of experience in the order-to-cash management functions each. So we got plenty of experience with us today. So Bob, talk to us about training, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah, what a subject for order to cash. I think Dave and I will both agree. Training, what training? You know, most people are just thrown into these jobs and there is little training in advance. And then once they get there, I think it's a hodgepodge of whether they are trained or not. I think Dave and I have some interesting experiences that we can share with everybody. So Dave, what do you think? When you first came into a credit and collections role, what kind of training did you have once you got there? How did that work?
Yeah, Bob, absolutely. Yeah, so I came out of college with a liberal arts degree and was hired by Dun & Bradstreet to write credit reports. And they like to hire liberal arts people, you know, for the reporting aspect of things. And they also liked us to have a good math aptitude, which I had, having actually started out in engineering. So D&B trained me in terms of all things profit and loss and balance sheet, because we would go into a business and we'd have to get as much information we could out of them. We would actually build the balance sheets and the profit and loss statements with the business owners, especially the smaller guys. And so we had to, you know, be able to fill in the gaps and things like that. So I had good in-house training on that with Dun & Bradstreet. Then when I moved into a corporate job, you know, I had absolutely no experience with collections or with any of the other aspects of the job. And so it was, everything was new. And it was actually, it was with Remington Rand, the revival of the original typewriter company. And so it was like working for a startup. And so, you know, you were flung into it and you're on your own. And I went out and the first thing I did was get permission to go take a D&B course, a one-day course with Myron Bigger, who I think you might have experienced as well.
Yeah.
And terrific course on collections. And so that was a one-day seminar at a remote location, and that's how things started.
That guy was a riot. I remember attending one of his sessions, and you know, we're all feeling pretty good about our roles, and you know, it's an important role in a company. And he was talking, and all of a sudden, he had this little string attached to a thing that flipped up in his shirt pocket, and he said, "You know what I am?" And he flipped it up, and the little sign there said "bill collector." And I thought that was a riot, because you know, when you get right down to it, that's really kind of all we do is collect bills. But that guy was very instructive.
Yeah, he was, and he was entertaining at the same time. And I think probably the only person I've ever met that actually had a degree in commercial credit. You know, over the years, you know, that we just don't run into that. People come in from accounting. They come in as a bookkeeper, and then they're given the position of credit and collections. They go into management training program, and then they, you know, find some traction in the credit and collections. It's various different ways. And so the training is extremely important too, I think, because I found, both working as a consultant and having worked for controllers and CFOs, that and actually having written now for many years and worked with a publication called Business Finance Magazine, where we surveyed their interests. Controllers and CFOs are not very interested in receivables. As long as everything is going fine, it's out of their mind. They have other concerns that are ahead of it. And they really have very little experience and understanding of what goes on in credit and collection. So you are on your own when you get in the job, and a lot of it is on the job training. So Bob, what was your experience in terms of starting out in credit and collections?
Well, I started out a little bit differently, but I think I ended up in the same place, Dave. When I was a young guy, I wanted to be a city manager. That was my aspiration. I got my degree in public administration. There was some accounting and some business related courses, but when I came out, I wanted to go into the public sector. So I spent about 8.5 years working for a very large county department, the county engineer, very diverse department. And I ended up, I was the head of administrative services when I left there, and I was doing budgets and things. So I was getting kind of acquainted with some of the more, financial oriented activities. And then I went to Xerox. And at Xerox at the time, I was hired in as a manager. And they put you through various positions, which ultimately would lead to what they called a regional controller position. So I went through all these hoops, and the last one actually was the credit department and some other functions I was responsible for. I had no training. It was throw him into the pool and see if he swims. And so my experience was that you really had to bootstrap yourself into what the technical aspects of what we were doing, certainly, and how to evaluate creditworthiness and how to effectively collect and so on. So I was kind of on my own. And I went to the course that with the fellow that you were describing. I went to that. I took some D&B stuff. And then I left that company with enough experience in credit and collections where I became the global director of credit and customer finance for a printer company. And again, that in each of my roles throughout my career, my boss had no idea what I was responsible for. They had no idea what I was doing. And I was kind of on my own. And I think that most people in the order to cash roles, whether certainly at a management level, you find that the senior management really does not understand, and they're incapable of really training you in any of the important things you need to know to do the job well. So I joined the NACM and a local affiliates industry group relevant to my company, and I went to my first credit congress. And it was an experience I'll never forget. First of all, it was very useful. There was a lot of useful breakouts and so on that I found really helped me a great deal. But then they had a big bash one night, and I had my wife with me. And we went to this hotel room, big ballroom. They opened the door. There was 3,000 people there. And I remember turning to my wife and I go, oh my God, I'm not the only one that does this. This is amazing. And I found that was extremely useful to network, interact with others. How do you do this? What's the best way to do this? And from there, I actually went on from there. And my next role, I was at Sony Pictures heading up credit and customer finance. And through conferences, through just doing research, talking with other people, that's how I got my training.